Okay, thank you. Myself, Chair Roth, will be calling to order the November meeting of the Mendocino Historic Review Board. Can you, Planner Cherry, can you please read the participation information for this virtual meeting?
Sure. Effective March 27th, 2020, the Mendocino County Historical Review Board meetings will be conducted virtually and not available for in-person public participation pursuant with State Executive Order N2920. Meetings are live streamed and available for viewing on the Mendocino County YouTube page at https://www.youtube.com/Mendocino County Video. In order to minimize the risk of exposure during this time of emergency, the public may participate digitally in meetings by sending comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org or orally via telecomment in lieu of personal attendance. All public comment will be made immediately available to the board, staff, and the general public as they are received and processed by staff, and can be viewed as attachments to this meeting agenda at https://www.mendocino-county.org/government/planning-building-services/meeting-agendas/mendocino-review-board. To submit public comments via telecommon, a request form must be received by 10 a.m. this morning. Telecomment form may be found at the Mendocino County Planning and Building Services meeting agenda webpage. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you to conduct roll call, please?
Certainly. I understand that Review Board member Alan Saunders has a planned absence today. So if I may, Review Board member Madrigal.
Here.
Review Board Co-Chair Kapler.
Present.
And Review Board Chair Roth.
Present. Thank you.
So also present is myself, Juliana Cherry, Jim Feenan from Planning and Building Services, and Mark Kleiser will be joining us to present some of the information during today's meeting.
Great. Thank you all for making yourselves available. Appreciate it. So agenda item 3, determination of legal notice. Can you please give us an update on that, please?
Yes, the projects being presented today were properly noticed. One item is continued, and it was noticed for its original hearing date and continued to a date certain. So notice for that item, it did not need to be re-noticed for today's meeting.
Great, thank you so much. That'll bring us.
Chair?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this is the right agenda item to bring this up, but we got a memo last week from County Council, and apparently we have to pass a resolution at every one of our meetings authorizing a remote teleconference. And we have to make a determination that we've considered the circumstances of the state of emergency, and the county health officer continues to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. And we've checked it with the county health officer to see if that guidance is still current. So County Council has sent us a draft resolution that apparently we have to approve at each of our meetings. So I'm not sure this is the time to do that, or at some point here, I think we do have to do that.
So Planner Cherry, can you give us any update on that?
Actually was not included in the correspondence on that, so I'm not aware of it. But just hearing what Co-Chair Kapler has stated, I'd like to suggest that we start including that on future agendas as a consent matter. And on today's agenda, perhaps we could have that be the first matter under public hearing items.
Okay.
Are we able to do that as things have been noticed? Is that proper?
I believe so. And I see that
Ian,
Holly also has a comment.
Ian, I just need to tell you that County Council's putting it on everybody's agenda separately. So he's still working on putting it on the agendas. Since your agenda missed the cutoff, it didn't get on this agenda. And if you're not going to have a December meeting, it won't be on that agenda either. So it probably won't show up till January. So it's actually going to be an item that he'll insert into the agenda. And it'll be on the agenda every month.
Right. So I think if I understand you, James, if I may, you're saying that no action is required at today's meeting because it's
Correct.
not on the agenda. But when it is placed on the agenda, then action will be required at that time.
Correct.
Okay. So, all right. So I think that addresses Holly Madrical's comments. Do you have any other questions, Co-Chair Kapler, that staff can help you with on this matter?
No, I think, if we don't have to address it this meeting and it's going to be placed on the agenda of future meetings, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Can I ask a small favor? I have total respect for you, but I think you're vice chair, not co-chair.
Oh.
I'm not sure how that's coming up. I think it might be county staff doing that.
I can change it.
We tried to get the digital placards right.
That's fine. Okay, so while we're doing that, it was Juliana Chapman who sent out that email on, when was it? It was Friday, October 29th at 1:10. So thank you for putting that together. Appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing it, Mark, on our either December or January agenda. Next item, if you want, go ahead.
I think we're at approval of minutes at this point on the agenda.
Yes. So we have approval minutes. Do we have any comments about the minutes of the September meeting?
If I may, staff would like to make a clarification. We have received correspondence from Kathleen Cameron, and she was absolutely correct. Staff would like to recommend on item 9A of the September 13 minutes under public comment that staff add written comment was received from Mackenzie Skye, Mackenzie and Robert Schmidt, Kathleen Cameron, Lee Edmondson, Arlo Reeves, David Daly, and Jonathan Perlman, the applicant's agent. And we can attach those public comments that were received to the minutes so that their comments are captured in the minutes.
That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. I was hoping we could somehow pull those in without having to continue it.
I'd like to also under this matter, under 9A, under presenters, I'd like to suggest adding a sentence that the applicant revised their application to include wood frame windows and wood doors. They had made that statement during the meeting, and because it is one of the things that was discussed, I thought it would be important to note that the applicant had volunteered that in the minutes.
Right, thank you. Okay. Any other comments, corrections?
I didn't have any other comments on it.
Holly?
I'll be happy to move approval of the minutes with those changes included.
Hold on a second. I do have a two questions, clarifications. Under application 2021-14, the Zimmer application. It's under review board discussions, the third paragraph down. So it's either Vice Chair Kapler in the second sentence, or it's Member Saunders.
Oh,
Where are we now?
Third paragraph under review board discussion, second sentence.
it's page 4 of the minutes. Under review board discussion, there's 5 paragraphs, and it's the third paragraph, second sentence. Vice Chair Saunders requested clarification as why the violations at the subject property. Was that Saunders or was that Kapler?
I think I asked that question. Yes.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll change that to Kapler.
Thank you. And then can we sort of create some consistency, because further on we have board member Saunders agreed with board Madrigal's concern. So is it board member, or is it member Saunders, or board member?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It doesn't really matter to me, just as long as we stay consistent. Sometimes it's more important to stay consistent than to be right.
Yeah. Well, the shortened title is review board member. So we'll work to make sure that it's consistent throughout.
Thank you. Another question I have is on 9D. We don't have a final vote on that case at the bottom.
Okay, I will work to research that and add that in.
I'm sure that it was unanimous. It's just if we can put that clarification in so that we know what the vote was, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And with that, unless there's something else, Holly, would you like to make that motion you're going to make?
I would move that, including those changes, that we approve the minutes.
And I can second that.
Thank you. If I may take a vote.
Yes, please.
By show of hands, is the motion, what is your vote to approve? A show of hands to approve. So that looks like 3 are voting to approve. So the minutes as amended are approved unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, which brings us to number 5. Do we have any correspondence?
Some comments have been received for projects that are being presented today on the agenda, but there is no written correspondence received for items not on the agenda. So the answer is no, unless James knows otherwise.
I have not received anything.
Okay, and no request to speak under public expression, or?
No correspondence.
Okay, thank you.
No emails.
Okay, thank you all. Item 6, report from the chair. I'm still going to plead for that 5th member to join us. You can see those who are watching are either at time of or after the fact. Board member Alan Saunders was not able to make it today. Holly was running a little late, or thought she might be. And I actually had my seat. I just re-upped my second term today. So, and it's been notarized and everything. So it's filed. So I actually do have a legal binding vote on here, which is good. I put in my re-uppance over a month ago, and I got the letter back on Thursday, and I had to struggle to get over here, but I was able to bring it in. So pleading out there to our community, we could greatly use a 5th member. I've been having a couple of conversations with some folks, and I encourage those who we've talked to go forth and prosper and join our fabulous little board here. The other thing I want to state is that I got a little excited last meeting. A lot of energy around enforcement. So if there's anything I said that was taken as offensive to anyone in particular, I do completely apologize for that. That was not the intention. I do not mean to talk poorly about anyone in our community. So I just want to offer an apology if I did offend anyone with that. So I'm still frustrated with the enforcement issue, but that's what it is. All right. That's my piece. So public expression, do we have, so the board welcomes participation in board meetings. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes per person, no more than 10 minutes per proposed item on a subsequent agenda so that everyone might be heard. Items of public expression are limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the board. Please submit a telecomment form by the required time to participate in public expression. Secretary will announce the speakers in the order received and state when each person has 30 seconds remaining. Do we have, to submit public comments via telecomment, a request form must be received by 10 a.m. the morning of the meeting, and the telecomment form may be found at https://www.mendocinocounty.org/government/planning-building-services/meeting agendas. And that is on the meeting agenda. So if you didn't catch all that, you can check it out. Do we have any public comments on non-agendized items?
We do not have any requests for public expression.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any items on consent calendar, number 8?
There are no items on the consent calendar.
Great, thank you so much. Which brings us to our first public hearing item. And this is case number 2021-0014. It was continued from last meeting of September 13th. This is Lynette and William Zimmer. It's an after the fact Mendocino Historic Review Board permit request for a double-faced painted wood sign hanging perpendicular to the building front from a black painted metal bracket. Sign colors are off-white and gold. Sign copy to read Nahara Healing Arts. And who do we have? Is that Planner Mike Kleiser who's going to do the staff presentation?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark Kleiser, Planner 2, planner on this project. As discussed at the last review board meeting, the project was continued as the review board did not come to a decision. Since then, staff has visited the project site on a number of occasions, both in September and October. And the applicant has proposed revising the application to include other signs that are currently in violation that would bring those signs into compliance, as well as potentially moving the Bebe La Pen sign. So at this time, staff would suggest continuing the item until a date uncertain, potentially bringing it back as soon as January. This all depends on getting the components of the revised application from the applicants. However, that said, the board did ask us to bring back some options should they want to move forward and make a decision on this item today. And I do have those options, which I'm happy to share with you if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay. So option number 1 is to approve the project as proposed. Option number 2 would be to deny the project with prejudice and an explanation of that. So in accordance with Mendocino County Section 2760080, no application that has been previously denied and that is not substantially changed will be accepted by the review board for a period of 6 months from the date of denial. So if you deny with prejudice, this item cannot come back to the board until May 2nd of next year. You can deny the project without prejudice, and the review board could provide example as the Nahara Healing Arts Sign Program. In this case, a denial would happen and the applicant would need to come back with a revised application that is substantially different. And finally, the item that I was suggesting, which is continuing this item until a date uncertain. Now, if you would like me to expound on any of those options, I'm happy to.
And to let you know, Mr. Zimmer is on the line.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's my hand?
I was just told that, I'm sorry, I was just told that Mr. Zimmer is on the line today.
And I have a note here, a communication that he is. So at this point, if board members don't have any objections, I will turn it over to the applicant and have him make his presentation, and then we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Staff would like to note that applicants are usually granted 10 minutes, and if you'd like, I can run a timer for those 10 minutes.
That would be fine.
Okay. So, Mr. Zimmer, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
You're muted. Do they know how to unmute themselves?
Right.
Oh, there we go. You're good. We can hear you.
Okay. We are proposing that the Baby La Pond sign be approved as it is currently situated. When it was heard before, it was heard under illegal circumstances. The Brown Act had been violated. Review board members had talked about the signage before the public meeting was opened. Nonetheless, we are open to entertaining other possibilities, but we would like to see the sign exactly as it is. It's in conformity with an endless number of signs just like it around town that have been approved of. The planning department has a copy of at least 11 of these photographs that I took. And I just saw another one today that's perfect, that was approved within the last 4 years. And that is down there where the film festival sign. It's exactly like ours, in the exact kind of a place, exact kind of a sign. So I don't know if you can see this, but you can see what ours look like, yeah?
We don't have visual of that.
Okay. Well, the planning department with the initial proposal had no problem with it. And the decision to deny it was based on a breach of the Brown Act. So we propose that decision be set aside and that the sign be approved as it is, because it is so very much just like so very many other signs in the town. And planning has images of them. I've got images here. Again, I will share them. Ian, you know this. We've gone through this. You've seen these signs. You've probably been walking around going, oh yeah, that's one of them too. So I am asking that that be the case. That you void the prior decision because it was made under illegal circumstances, and that you reconsider the findings of the planning department before this whole mess came before you, that it was in full compliance, and that you approve it. That's
if I may, Mr. Zimmer, we are considering an application for the Nahara Healing Arts sign at today's meeting. And we are asking for comments on the Nahara Healing Arts sign. If you have comments about another sign on the property, there is time later in the agenda that we can talk about that. But the matter that you described at this point in your public comments are not part of what is under consideration during today's meeting at this time.
So when could this be heard?
It is on the agenda under matters from the board, item 10B, but we would really appreciate to hear comments on the Nahara Healing Arts application that the review board is considering at this time in the meeting.
I don't have any comments on Nahara's sign.
Okay. I guess that closes the presentation. We will open up public hearing. And do we have any public hearing comments that have been filed yet?
There's one coming. He's signing in right now.
Okay. Do we want to pause the meeting for 3 minutes to invite public participation via email?
I actually just sent him the email to come into the meeting. I'm
Okay,
just waiting for him to come
Okay.
into the waiting.
that's fine. Let's put that on hold. So if someone wanted to send in an email for public hearing, they would send it to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org, right?
Mhm.
Okay, why don't we pause it for 3 minutes? We can let our guests come in and also open the opportunity to anyone else who wants to.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you, Planner Chair. I appreciate it.
Alex is raising his hand.
And by the way, for board members, while we're on the 3-minute wait, you may want to turn off your mics. Mute yourselves.
Are we muted?
So, I'm gonna go. Okay.
Thank you.
How do we tune out of this one?
I would just leave it on and let it go the whole time. And then when it's really over, just command quit. Well, sometimes there's a leave meeting, click leave meeting. If not, command quit.
Where's
Which is command Q
Okay,
at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it sounds like what they're doing. I mean, boards, I was served on a board. It's just so lugubrious. They did no harm. You have nothing to say on it. That's what you want to say. It sounds like they're going to get to it later in the meeting.
Yeah.
So you'll sit
Just
here.
so you know, we can hear the
Yeah.
conversation.
Steph, you may want to mute yourself.
okay, we'll do it.
Thank you.
I don't mind.
Mom's
I didn't say anything. I can pour it out. But be aware.
okay.
And if do you have a way to text? If something comes up, I'll be available.
So staff, you're still unmuted.
Go ahead, tell him. So we have another, his name's Rick Sachs. He may want to speak on this matter. He has his hand raised.
Okay, but we're still a minute 30 in. So can we please hold it till then, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
1 minute remaining.
Hey, this morning a couple just left your start.
15 seconds remaining. All right, that concludes the 3 minutes that we set aside for receiving requests for public comment or emailing public comment in. And during these 3 minutes, I have learned that Rick Sachs is available to provide some comments. I believe he's acting as agent on behalf of Nahara Healing Arts. So perhaps we could start with Rick Sachs.
Right. So I just want to state the parameters here. Review Board welcomes participation in the meetings. If you request to speak on this matter, call in now. You obviously have. To encourage public participation, the Review Board is setting aside 3 minutes to receive the comments, which we did. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to myself, the meeting chair, and to refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff or other board members. Clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. So Mr. Sachs, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I would like to applaud Mark Kleiser and his efforts to look at this whole situation and try find a way of making it all a clean slate on that project to where we can all move ahead. And Ian, I can't talk to you directly. I'm sorry.
I am the chair. Yes, you can.
I really felt your frustration last meeting and shared it. And I called Ted and made a very strong comment about let's get this all fixed. And I think the Mark and Juliana go in there with code enforcement and all of that to try and get this resolved was a result of Supervisor Williams' effort. So anyway, thank you very much for this. Let's get it all cleaned up. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you for those comments, Mr. Sachs. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's bring it back to our board. So, Holm or Holly, do you have any comments?
If I may, let's just check and see if there are other public comments.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Planetary.
Jim Feenan, are there other members of the public who would like to express comment on this project?
I did send the email to the party that wanted to talk. He has not signed in yet, so he's not in the waiting room.
Well,
all right.
If you do happen to see him pop in, let us know and we can maybe do a little detour. Okay, board members, your thoughts.
Okay, I find this whole thing very confusing. We've been told apparently that there is going to be a revised application having to do with Nahara Healing Arts, and that will be put on the December meeting or whatever our next meeting is. If that's the case, I'm fine with continuing that issue until the next meeting. But I think that maybe that's not really what's happening here. It sounds like Mr. Zimmer wants to reopen the whole question from 2019. And that's what's going to be looked at again at the next meeting. And the Nahara Healing Arts is just going to be part of that discussion. So I'm confused as to what's going on and what we're being asked to do at this meeting as opposed to a future meeting. In any case, before I'm willing to agree to any new signs, I would like to have an explanation of the extent to which the listed violations, and I appreciate Mr. Kleiser's work in coming up with a listing of violations, the extent to which those violations have been rectified. I think if we're still in violation on a lot of things, I'm uncomfortable about approving a new sign for that location. Thank you.
Thank you. So staff, Mark Kleiser, can you please help clarify what we're being asked to do?
If I may, through the chair, these are two separate applications at this time. Nahara is considering revising their application to include some of the signs that were in violation as a result of the previous application. Much has changed since then. Signs have moved. So that revision would clear up some of the violations, but 2019-0004 is its own separate application, which will be considered separately.
Okay, so we're still waiting for a revised application with regard to Nahara?
Correct.
Okay.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing correctly, we have permit 2021-0014, which Nahara as applicant is going to revise this application, come back in front of us at a later date. Holly, I'll let you obviously make comment on this, but it seems like the prudent thing, as Holmes said, would be to continue the item until date certain for future consideration. Please, Holly.
I would be fine with that. I just want to clarify, if I could, that I believe Nahara wasn't in violation. I mean, they were actually, that's not true, because they were applying after the fact of installation. But that the concerns did have to do with the other signs. So if we need to bring them all under one umbrella and do that at a future date, I am more than happy to do so. What concerned me in the last time, and you guys will remember the conversation, was that we were penalizing that business owner for concerns of other signs on the property. So if we think we can have some sort of global settlement on addressing that in a roundabout way, I think it would address Mr. Zimmer's concerns as well. I mean, if we're gonna be talking about all of the signs, in some sort of way, if staff has come up with some suggestions around that, I would absolutely be willing to look at that.
So I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, Holly, the Nahara application is kind of, it's kind of neither here nor there, because the sign's already been put up. The larger concern is about the multiplicity of signage that is on this property that are considered violations. So I mean, in my opinion, Nahara is kind of a side. She's sort of a drive-by shooting, in the sense that she's kind of being penalized for things a little beyond her control. So, and I don't know if. So let me ask staff: does 2021-0014 does that stand alone, or how does that relate to the memorandum that you sent out regarding all the violations and staff recommendations?
Mark Kleiser, 2021-0014 is its own application at this time, and it is requesting approval of the after the fact sign for Nahara. Revised application will bring into that application as well other signs that are currently in violation on that site. So it will, as Board Member Madrigal said, sort of bring it all under one umbrella and potentially approve other signs that are in violation, including the Nahara.
So will you need a motion to continue it to a future date?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think part of the issue is that Nahara says that she's going to modify her application. I don't know how that's going to really affect the grander scheme of things. But if she doesn't have a complete application, I don't know that we can really do anything but continue it. But it might be nicer to sort of have that alongside with the 2019 application that is in concern. Maybe we can hear them side by side at a future meeting, and that way we can sort of understand the property as a total one enchilada kind of thing.
I think for the moment, the only thing we can do with the Nahara application is to continue it, because apparently there's going to be a revised application. So I don't see how we can take action on that at this point. And then if it comes together with the other issues at the next meeting, that's fine with me. But right now, I think I would make a motion to continue the Nahara Healing Arts application to the next meeting of the board.
And the nice thing about that is that the business owner, Nahara Healing Arts, she's held harmless by that action because she already has her sign.
She's, the sign is up. I don't think we're penalizing her in any way.
Nope. Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second, given that there's three of us.
Thank you. Any other discussion? And if not, staff, can we take roll call?
Okay, by a show of hands, could we see whether the board unanimously or how the vote is to approve continuing MHRB 2021-0014 to a date uncertain? A show of hands to approve the motion.
Thank you.
I have 3 hands showing to continue to a date uncertain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I can find my agenda that's now buried. All right. So matters from the board, item number 10A, board members, do you have any reports? I heard a no from Holly, Vice Chair Kapler.
I'm sorry, I missed what you're asking.
Any reports from our review board members?
No.
And I'll just circle back. I believe Holly met with Ted Williams and someone else, I'm trying to remember who, about the code enforcement. And
Ed O'Brien.
Yeah, do you want
that was a while ago.
Okay. And that was after our last meeting, right?
No, it was no.
Prior to?
Sorry, we have not had a chance to meet since our last meeting. I was out of town.
Okay. Great.
I do have a quick question from board member. Gordon Lane is out, correct? Out of the district?
Yes.
Okay. I'm working on it, trying to find some folks.
Trying to find some what?
Board members.
Okay. Got it. That would be in the letter we sent to the Board of Supervisors requesting expansion of the qualifications for board members. So, okay, it brings us to 10B, discussion whether to add MHRB permit 2019-0004 to the December or some future public meeting hearing items. Staff, can you help us out with that?
Yes, I can. The permit, MHRB 2019 number 4, is the previously approved Bill Zimmer application for signs and display cabinets. It was approved by the review board in January of 2020. And if the permit is not vested by January 2022, it will have lapsed and expired and no longer have effect. So in preparing for today's consideration and looking at the property over the last couple of months, we have been to the site a variety of times and really kind of narrowed down what are violations on the property and how to move forward. And one of the things that we've noticed is that this MHRB permit that was issued almost 22 months ago is operating not in conformance with the permit. And under the conditions of the issued permit, the review board could take an action to revoke the permit. They could provide direction to the property owner to encourage their compliance with the issued permit, or they can, because it will lapse in 2 months, if it is not vested, you could just let the clock run out on it, or let the property owner have 60 more days to try to vest the permit. So I wanted to present to the review board some options and to get direction from the review board about how they would like to proceed. So one option is you could ask staff to put the matter of this permit on a public hearing calendar for the December meeting with an action to potentially consider revoking the permit. Another option is you could give some direction to staff. The property owner is looking at submitting either a new permit or a revised permit. We're really not sure what application is coming forward as it hasn't been filed, but you could give some direction to staff on areas that you might support in the future, or are you just really wanting to stand by this MHRB decision from 22 months ago? So some direction to staff about whether or not the review board would like to have this permit put on the agenda for public discussion regarding revoking the permit. And we could add that to the December calendar or even the January calendar.
Okay. Go ahead, Holly.
Okay.
Can you clarify just briefly what kinds of violations were?
Oh, certainly. Okay, so I did email a copy of the permit today to the property owner who was the applicant, Bill Zimmer. And I believe I also copied review board members on that permit. So the review board in their action in January of 2020 denied a freestanding sign in the planted area. And the review board encouraged the sign part, it's 2 posts with a sign in between, that existing wood sign could be placed over the Baby Le Pen commercial suite. The review board also denied what's called sort of an eyebrow sign. It's a small sign over the door of Baby Le Pen. And during the multiple site visits that I've done over the last several weeks, and my colleagues have, we see that the eyebrow sign remains over the Baby Le Pen door. And we see that the freestanding sign remains in place. The review board also approved a perpendicular sign over the suite that's now currently occupied by Nahara Healing Arts. The sign that was approved there was for Barge North. Therefore,
Okay.
Barge North is also operating in violation of the permit because they've moved to an alternative suite on the property that does not have approval to have the Barge North sign.
Thank you for that. I actually
yeah.
I didn't realize this was the same I didn't realize we were talking about the same property. I was thinking that this was
a lot of people don't realize that Bill Zimmer's property includes Barge North,
okay.
The country store, which has multiple violations, and despite statements from others, the violations have been explained to that multiple times over many years. I personally have done it 3 times.
Okay.
So there are violations there about display of merchandise and violations regarding signs and signs and windows with the country store. Then Nahara Healing Arts got some really bad advice and hung a sign prior to obtaining MHRB permits for a sign. Then the next suite over is Baby Le Pen, which I've described. There's also the water tower in the back and Frankie's. I don't believe that there are any really significant violations there except for the use of sandwich board signs. Sandwich board signs generally are not permitted within the district. And I believe this is because businesses by code are limited to 1 sign per business unless the review board makes an exception. And so when the review board approves signs, it's usually a sign affixed to the building and it's not for a sandwich board sign. So that's why often sandwich board signs are violations, is they just don't have an MHRB permit. And there really isn't capacity within the code for them. Then the last building on Bill Zimmer's property is the Village Sock Shop. And they have been putting out an informational sign by their entrance, which is not really a violation because it's only out during business hours, and it is a warning about public health practices during this public emergency. Generally, though, a sign of that size by the door, we would really discourage, but I think it falls under these informational signs at this time. So really the violations that staff has identified with the property has to do with Baby Le Pen, who has not only not installed the sign that was authorized by the review board, but has persisted to display signs that the review board denied. That's both the sign over the door and the freestanding sign in the public right-of-way. And I'd like to note that freestanding signs in the public right-of-way likely also require a Department of Transportation encroachment permit. Then also there are violations with the country store regarding display of merchandise.
Thank you, Planner Jerry. I didn't mean to, I apologize. I was thinking it was a completely separate permit. When it was brought up, I realized that it was related to the conversation we had earlier. So that's sufficient. I know that staff has met with them and is working on a solution.
All right.
So thank you so much for that.
Sure. Thank you.
So the question at hand is to figure out whether we want to add this 2019-0004 permit to the December 2021 meeting. Go ahead, Home.
Okay, so I find this item extremely confusing. And I'm not sure what we can do at this point. And I really need an explanation of what we're being asked to do, because surely we're not being asked to rehear MHRB 2019-0004 in its entirety. Number one, I don't know if that can be done, because as I understand it, we made our decision and there was no appeal of that decision. So legally, can we take this action? Can we look at it a second time? Maybe we can. I just don't know. But in addition, I don't know if it at this point makes any sense to look at that permit, because things have changed considerably. Some of the issues are still the same, but signs have been moved. People have been moved from different places. There are new shops, and there seem to be a number of additional violations that we didn't even look at when we looked at the 2019 request. So I'm somewhat confused as to what we're being asked. Now, if there is a new request that comes in from the shops in the Zimmer buildings for our next meeting, okay, I can see us doing that. But just looking at the 2019-0004 request again at this point doesn't make sense to me.
So I think what I heard from staff was that a permit that is not finalized or acted upon within 2 years basically is considered another violation. And I'm trying to figure out,
if I may clarify, the permit is effective for 2 years. If it is not vested within 2 years, it's void. It's as if the action never occurred. And that will happen on January 15th if the property owner chooses not to vest it. Under adopted condition 4 of the permit that has been issued, the review board can take an action to revoke the permit. And you can take this action at any time if you feel that the permit is not being used in good faith. So what staff is asking is, would you like us to schedule a public hearing to discuss revoking this permit under adopted condition 4? And we can schedule that for the December or the January hearing.
So I guess the issue at hand is if the applicant is not interested in fulfilling the requirements of the existing permit, what value is there to revoke it, to rescind it, to extend it if the applicant isn't interested in doing what they've been asked to do?
It is an opportunity for the review board to grasp the reins of what they have as far as their authority in issuing permits, to let property owners know where they stand when they continue their violations. But that's really what revoking the permit, it sends a clear message of how the review board stands on that. But there are other ways of doing that. It's completely up to the review board whether they want to schedule it as a hearing item or not.
But if we revoke the permit, then we have a situation where I think almost all of the signs in the Zimmer buildings are in violation, aren't they?
The Baby Le Pen sign and the Barge North sign are already in violation. It won't change the fact that those signs are in violation because they already are in violation.
I would.
Go ahead, Holly.
This is fun. I would somewhat. So this is a separate permit than the Nahara issue that we just discussed. I would, rather than going through the staff time, frankly, of rescinding or, going through the steps to do that, I would be interested on erring on the side of letting it expire if it's not in fact fulfilled. But still, if staff thinks that they can come up with a global solution for that problem, or at least a recommendation for that entire building and all the signs covered under it, I would be interested in moving forward with that application and letting this one be abandoned if it could be covered, if that makes sense, in the next permit.
But there is no application, is there? I mean, where's the application? Who's made the application?
The application is the one that was open 2019-004. Nahara's is separate, and it's not. It doesn't have any effect to the other prior application.
Right.
So let me go back to process here, because we are bound by that, even though we've been told that we don't follow it. We have our staff presentation. Do we have? I believe we should have an applicant presentation. Is that correct?
This is a board member discussion item about whether to put something on the December agenda. So we don't have to receive public comment for that. If you'd like to hear public comment, you can. If I may, through the chair, respond to Vice Chair Kapler's comments. Right now, we have an MHRB permit issued for signs in the suites of the Bill Zimmer building and also a display cabinet. We also have an application on file for Nahara Healing Arts that has not been amended, but we do understand from the applicant that they intend to amend it. And we're hoping that they'll file that this week so that we can get it on the next agenda for MHRB. Because they haven't filed their amended application, we don't know the extent to how it will be amended. We are optimistic that it will address the Barge North sign violation. And we're hopeful that it can also address the Baby Le Pen sign violation, but we will not know what the application will entail until it is either a new one is filed or a revised one is filed.
Okay, so what you're telling us is that you think that there will be a new application that will cover not only the Nahara Healing Arts issue, but also some of the other sign issues that are out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I would be in favor of letting the previous permit expire for lack of vesting in January.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could restate that, you would be in favor of not adding this permit to the December agenda and as a public hearing item to possibly be revoked. You don't want to take an action at this time.
I wouldn't want to invest the staff time in what's going to expire anyway.
Right,
Right.
And to be honest, I think our concerns have been very clear and very well communicated. And I would agree that putting this out in the open again is not going to help anyone do anything that any of us want. So I think we've been there, done. Yeah. The horse is dead.
Yeah, well, as staff, I listened to what was said in September, and we really looked at the permits that were issued, and we wanted to give all of the options to the four of you on the review board on what you can do with the existing signs at the property. And that is why we added this to the agenda. And I know that we added it to the agenda in a way that, in the way that we did, because we really wanted to allow the review board the opportunity to discuss this option.
And I think what I think we're hearing from us as the board is that we are enthusiastically hoping that the Naharu application becomes modified to correct the violations that are outstanding, and that application should take care of this whole issue.
Okay.
So
Right.
hopefully the applicants can hear that and run with it. So I guess at this point, if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion? Or do we need one?
We do not need a motion for just this item.
So I think the direction is not to bring back the 2019-0004 permit to any future meeting, to let it lapse if not vested, which is the way things are set up, and to encourage application 2021-0014 Naharu Healing Arts to include resolution of existing violations on the larger property.
Thank you for that. Staff does appreciate hearing that.
Good. Okay. Which brings us to item number 11, which is conference with property owner regarding roof-mounted solar array at 45091 Kovlo Street. And who's going to present this?
I'll be presenting that, Mark Kleiser, Planner 2. I'd like to share my screen. Okay, as stated, this is a request for solar panels at 45091 Kovlo Street. This is on the the southeast corner of Kovlo and Ford Street in Mendocino. Here is a photograph of the house. This is looking south. Can you see this? Is it large enough?
Yep.
Okay. This is looking south. This is looking west. The house here is behind these bushes. And looking east, this is from Ford Street. This house is directly across the street from the Blair house, but because the panels will be placed on the eastern side of the roof, they will not be visible from Blair house. It is also across the street from the Carroll house, which is an inventory 1 historic structure. But again, because of placement, it is unlikely that the solar panels will be highly visible. So I'd like to just go through these pictures here. A lot of these are not necessary. These are the type of panels that will be on the house. They will be flat, they will be non-reflective. Here's another example. This is a good one because the house does have a solar, a skylight in it, and the panels will be on either side. Here's another example of the panels and how they will be flat and not reflective. And finally, this is a site plan. So here is Kovlo Street, here is Ford. The panels will be on this side of the house. 2 skylights in between. Over here to the east is the backyard of the Mendocino Coast Reservation, so there's no house to see it. And the house to the south will have some visibility of these, but because of the angle of the roof, which is relatively flat, it probably won't be very highly visible. So what we're doing now is we're asking the review board to consider this item and maybe give recommendations to the property owner if they feel that these panels could fit in a little bit better within Mendocino. And I'm here for any questions. I do believe we have the applicant or the agent online to discuss this project further.
And actually, Mark, can you go over a couple of other things real quick?
Sure.
One is attachment E, which I know that it's the, this is the historic something or other of the United States, blah, blah, blah.
This is the Secretary of the Interior.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, no, the National Park Service. These are their recommendations for solar panels on historic structures. And as you can see, they are recommending they be on the roof and not in the yard or freestanding.
And I think the concept is if you're going to be putting solar panels on a historic building, have them be, hide them as much as possible so it doesn't detract from the historic reference of the building itself.
Yes.
And then could you also give a 20.5-second summary about how we're clashing between guidelines, local and state around solar?
Well, so we have the Coastal Commission that we have to deal with. We've got the federal solar laws, and then we have our recommendations. So we're conflicting with federal, which states that we are not able to deny or approve a project, but we can give recommendations for it. So there is a bit of a conflict.
So here we are, as what you're asking for at the end of the day is not a thumbs up or thumbs down in terms of approving or denying, because that's not within our authority, but rather to give comments about how we interpret our design guidelines to this specific project. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Can I quickly clarify before we go to the applicant that it seems like a flat roof, right? Though it's not a
Yes.
peaked roof. So that would, if that's the case, then both sides of the roof would be visible from the Packard house and from the other building.
There's this, it's not completely flat. As you can see, there's a slight angle to it. But yes, it's relatively flat.
Oh, okay.
So do we have the applicant handy or available?
You have to get out of the insurance room.
Hi, good afternoon, board members and planning and building staff. This is Jason Lord. I work with Mendocino Solar Service, and I helped design and run through this project with the property owner. And we went through several iterations, deciding to end up putting 18 panels on the eastern slightly sloped roof to hide it from view off of Ford Street and Little Lake Street as much as possible. The roof attachments we made, or we're going to be using, are about 3.25 inches tall, and then using Dunlap roofing to cover those penetrations with TPO or like membrane boots, and then putting the structure on top of that, which consists of an L-foot rail and then the modules itself. I expect about a 4 to 5 inch gap, air gap between the roof surface and the panels. And so I don't believe it will be visible from even the second story of Blair House, really only the adjacent properties. And the owner has gone about the town and really has asked approval from her neighbors to make sure that she wasn't, inflicting upon them any unsightly solar panels. And we picked solar modules that are all black so that they would kind of be the best look aesthetically for anybody who can see it from some oblique angle on Covelo Street. Yeah, like I said, their motivation is mainly to offset their electric bill and also create a system where they can have power when the grid goes down, which seems to happen more frequently. They have some essential medical equipment that needs to stay powered for the safety of the owner. So that's also a consideration and a reason why we'd be installing batteries within the garage, so that won't be visible from anywhere as well.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lord. Appreciate it. All right. And again, we're not voting up or down on this. We're just giving our comments for the record. So, board members?
I was happy with the information that both parties provided. I was a little concerned about Blair House because of the proximity and whether or not you could see it from Blair House. And I think I'm convinced that since it's on the east side of that house, it's not going to be be an issue. And I like the fact that these are all black panels, and there seem to be about 17 of them. So basically, I don't have any real concerns about this project.
Thank you. Board Member Madrigal.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's going to be interesting as we continue to meet up with the federal solar or the state of California solar guidelines, federal guidelines, and moving forward with a historic district. I mean, they don't look historical, but I absolutely understand the importance of other alternative energy sources. So as far as it appears as if the applicant has really worked to blend in with the existing neighborhood and framework. So I don't have any additional comments beyond that.
Thank you. The
only thing I would add is that, this is a unique house in Mendocino. It's a rather modern house. I don't know how old it is, but it looks 1950s to me. So for that reason, the solar panels don't bother me as much as they would if it was a 150-year-old house.
Like on top of Blair House, maybe?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Can I ask staff, Jim, do we have anyone lined up for public expression?
No, we're not on this matter.
Okay, great. Then I'll close it up by echoing what everyone else has said. I know that when a project comes before us, there's a geographic circle that's drawn, and anyone who's within that radius gets noticed. And I'm sure that Blair House was part of that. And if the owner of Blair House is not showing to complain about it, then I'm really not worried. And I like the home, same concept that it's a newer home. Very few people are actually going to see this. So, and along with Holly, I totally support alternative energy sources. So I don't have any comments on this project. So does that give staff what they need?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. I guess if there's no other comments, that brings us to the end of our agenda. It's 3:15 on Monday, November 1st. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Sure. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you so much. And we will either see you in December or January. And I'm sure staff will be letting us know pretty quickly about what's going on. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right, this isn't related. I heard some comments about the December meeting. Like, we are planning on having a December meeting as of now, right? Or has that been canceled? I thought I heard some comments in there. Are we all good for December? As far as we know?
If I may, through the chair, this is
please.
Juliana Cherry. Staff anticipates issuing a notice that the December meeting is canceled and that we will have a meeting in January.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to
Thank
know.
you for
Well,
that clarification.
in that case, happy holidays, everyone. Let's do our little rain dance because that makes me very happy. And you guys all have a safe and happy end of 2021. I'll see you next year. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.